Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hyperspace on Dark Matter Radio Network. I'm your host, Solaris, BlueRaven. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this evening, and a special thank you to webmaster and producer Keith Rowland. And my special guest this evening is Laura Magdalene Eisenhower. Laura is a global alchemist, intuitive astrologist, ascension guide, and is the great-granddaughter of Dwight David Eisenhower. She is on a profound mission to reveal our true origins connected with the Magdalene and Gaia-Sophia energies of love and wisdom, and works to liberate us from the military-industrial complex, the Archonic systems, and false power structures. These forces connect many dots that are coming into our awareness now more than ever as our solar system aligns with the galactic plane. While residing and traveling independently in over 20 cities in the United States and abroad, she developed an excellent knowledge base in frontier health, exopolitics, alchemy, metaphysics, and ancient history, and also has degrees and certifications in science, wilderness, expedition, leadership, natural healing, and building. She has masterfully woven together the esoteric and alchemical aspects of nature with our ancient roots, hidden history, the present world, and our future potential. And her website is cosmicgaiasophia.com. And please welcome Laura to the show this evening. Hi, Laura. You there? Laura, are you muted? Can you hear me? Okay.
I'm here. Hello.
Oh my gosh. Hi. Okay.
I wouldn't do that to you. Oh my gosh. Hello. It's good to be here. Sorry about that.
Well, that's okay. Yeah, I'm glad to have you, and welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. So let us know what you've been up to. What's been going on with you?
Oh man. Gosh, it's always kind of like a blur, even though. 2014 was, I would say, a really productive year. Lots of great events. But in the last couple months, there's been kind of a huge life event change. I know it was posted once, but the buildup, I guess, is where I'm coming from. Is pretty much the final couple months of 2014. A breakup. Me and my partner, Dr. Dream, have just shifted gears into just really close friends. And as much as it's a positive transition, and everything is really nice between us. It's been rather difficult. But I'm always keeping my ears out when it comes to what's necessary and what's needed, just to play my role and my part. Mm-hmm. And I'm just not really in the love and light right now at all. I'm just, I'm feeling pretty fired up. And I have to say that's kind of like where I always kind of go back to when the injustices are still there, when people like Hillary are still running for president. It's like, none of this stuff is going to go away anytime soon. I'm not getting. So,
exactly.
Feeling like, really called to take things to the next level, let's just say.
Excellent. Well, I'm happy for you, and I know all will work out as guided by spirit, as we all know in situations like that with relationships. We just move on to the higher levels. But I agree with you, the love and light thing, I'm very sweet too, deep down, but I'll tell you what, man, I'm like lock and load lately too. I've just about had it with the dysfunctional patterning and all the corruption that's going on in this country, and hopefully we can turn it around. And, what do you think it's going to take to actually make that change? I mean, we can send love until we're blue in the face, but it seems to me like unless action is actually taken, this stuff is just not going to move on.
Right. I'm going to be teaming up, with a very close friend, and that's, more to be revealed. And it's really like about, creating strategies. And I think, without kind of putting too much out there before, the plan is, figured out, it's like, let's, go to the people that signed up for a certain job that's supposed to look out for us and humanity, and let's confront those people. And, it's like, I want to go as far and wide as I possibly can. And whether it be the National Guard, whether it be my local cop, anybody that's supposed to be an authority, anybody who's supposed to enforce the law, it's time to present some information to them. And whether it's her or somebody else, it's like, these people need to do their job. And I know that this individual, this very close friend of mine, we want to, leave a paper trail. So, to just show our efforts. That's not like the reason, but it's like, okay, if somebody were to say, well, did you try this route? What about, this or that? And it's not going to be about this person, specifically. It's just justice in general. We need to get our cops back. We need to get, our National Guard back. We need to get those who serve back and help them to see the game that's being played. And as much as some might sense it, and others might just have their head in the sand. There's a lot who do have integrity and who do have families and who do, they know what their job is. And so if there's evidence and there's, books being written and there's videos being put out, it's like, okay, we're going to start with you then.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's really about education. I agree with you on that one. And of course, with the misuse, my big thing is the misuse of covert technology, which I'm very familiar with, especially psychotronics and all the other stuff that they do behind the scenes. And that's a huge thing because it affects everybody on a global scale. And of course, I don't have to tell you about mass mind control and the games being played out here. Now, you touch a lot on the military industrial complex. You have in the past. And do you think that there is actually someone behind them as a global mass mind control, somebody who's actually running the show behind the military industrial complex?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just sort of like, that's a brilliant question in a lot of ways, because it's like, okay, well, that just kind of gets to the heart of like, what is like, going on here? We've got this negative alien agenda. Our governments are connected to some sort of agreement, the ET government treaties. And I've been, studying and researching that a lot, and the roots of where they come from. And I would say, definitely, but the very beings or the very things that might be behind it are also something that might connect to future human selves and what ends up happening if we go down a specific timeline, and who the overlords are, and who are, maybe the species that is digressing, who has been playing, kind of like, the in-between, where, there might have been, some sort of agreement, there might have been some sort of effect that happened based on, decisions that we've all made that, caused a certain digression that then, created a necessity in their perspective to time travel back and, do abductions to get genetic material to save their dying race. And it's like, this is the window period where we can say, okay, we might be those people from the future that are going to end up doing that. And like right now we can go, down a path that's far more advanced on a spiritual and soulful level, not, under the guise of any sort of new age teaching or, something really outside of the self. Not to say there isn't, beneficial stuff, but we have to really understand like what we're made of and how that links to the core sun of this planet. And that's really what's ascending. It's like, we're not ungrounding, we're not floating away. And, if anybody signed up for that and they're going to, awesome. But when I talk about it, that's not what I'm talking about, Mm-hmm. Right. And just to really prepare us, it's like, okay, we might go underground. We might have to, scramble around and like figure out what we're going to do with all this. But let's not make choices that are going to compromise how we're advancing as a race. Because, we're dealing right now with, people surviving these things and feeling assaulted by these things. And there's a lot of questions, that are coming out that need to be answered. And my concern is that where they get the answers from when the governments are ready to share this stuff, it's already going to be locked in place that a transhumanism world is coming down the pike. And, the masters have come in with their technology that's going to like clean up whatever has gotten messed up, that they actually, compromise, they actually are behind that. And, we don't want to get lost in this loop. And so I'm just kind of excited about, being really loud and as loud as possible. Mm-hmm. And also, I want everybody to know that I don't believe that I have the ultimate truth. I believe we all have, our own. And then there's universal truths. And then there's, facts. There's stuff that's going on. There's stuff that like we need to call out. And yeah, whatever with the gray areas, it's just, let's all like get the conversation going and flowing and not think that there's, certain individuals that are in the truth movement sort of pushing this thing along. It's like, no, let's invite the whole human race to have a voice. Let's start to interact. Let's really start to empower people to be leaders and like kind of like, change the whole structure of maybe like what we've been taught and come up maybe with a different model and start to just like kind of like, it's like, all right, ready guys, let's go. A lot of us have been going for a long time, but it's like some sort of educational thing that's not all about the hardcore conspiracy necessarily, but at least, holding people accountable that are doing criminal things that we can all agree, it should not be allowed to see the light of day,
Mm-hmm. Oh, and they've been getting away from it for decades. Seriously, this whole thing, what was it? I think I was looking at, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Roswell crash was around July 8th of 1947 or something like that. And then, of course, they waltz in with the National Security Act, July 26th. plus or minus 1947. I mean, this is what I'm talking about, all this censorship, the control, the manipulation, and then now they have an array system that's designed to control, manipulate consciousness. And that's really big, because if you're talking about ascension and higher self, oversoul, superconscious, and us ascending to the next level of our own evolution, we've got something trying to derail that through their version of what they want us to ascend into. And that, of course, dovetails into the transhumanism. So that can be very concerning, without a doubt. And I agree with you. We need to get everybody up to speed and just kind of put aside our differences and move to the next level. But we do need to expose these people. We need to flush them out like rats, and we need to change this dynamic, without a doubt.
Yeah, and that's, I can't think of a louder calling right now. And it's like, we all have like, we don't want to spread ourselves too thin, but there's, certain things that each of us feel like, okay, I got that one. That is where I feel, amped. I feel called to do it. I feel my nervous system is wired to do it. Whereas if I don't, I'm going to have like something's not going to be right. And I'm not going to be able to sleep. It's just, so it's like, yeah, this is the direction I'm heading. I don't quite know how it looks just yet, but I'm just channeling all the divine rage and all the passion, that is related to just like having some kind of, some sort of, I don't know if the word's faith, but like, like we can do this. Like, even though we're so caught up in some low dramas and like all sorts of things, and, dynamics between people are very disappointing, because it's like we should be getting to a higher level. And like, I'm not really seeing much improvement, but I'm seeing it in certain areas. Of course, it's not like all like, but like kind of as the observer, kind of seeing the way some of it's playing out. And that's going to be, things are going to be all over the board. But the places that just, we can each affect by just pushing it forward and doing it in such a way. And it's just, I'm just excited about this year, because none of it's like fear-based, like, it's coming from, it's more, this is the time, and there is no excuse for somebody like this running for president. It's just, there is no excuse. And if the human race knew better, this wouldn't be happening. And so I'm going to leverage whatever I can, and I'm just going to do whatever I can this year.
That's awesome. Well, I applaud you on that. And, we're all here on the front lines doing what we can as well, trying to educate people and enlighten everybody and get everybody up to speed. I mean, as best we can. But I agree with you. I believe if we didn't have, if we didn't have these alphabet agencies, this country would be in a fantastic state. Unfortunately, that's what's caused the demise of this country, in my opinion. So, I'm sure there's some good people in the cracks here and there, but the majority of them, man, they've completely manipulated the game.
Yeah, definitely. And it's just time, and it's been time for a long time. And like, folks like you and me and others, it's just like, it is, it's kind of like, okay, well, what next? I mean, this should have been taken care of a long time ago, but it's like, okay, just getting, just to that place where, enough people have seen the information, and there might be, enough support to sort of back this. And it's like, I mean, anyway, I'm just like that. And it's not that I'm not love and light right now. It's like, but I'm just there is something that is like completely guiding me right now. And we're always guided, people like you and me, but
I'm a warrior spirit.
Yeah. This one's taking me right into the whoa. And I've known like for a long time that's where it's going to go. And only few people are willing to go there, like yourself. So it's always just so wonderful to be on your show, because I just feel like I'm just really, really very at home.
Yeah, likewise. No, I totally feel a resonance with you too. We always, we mesh really well, and people have compared us up. We've talked about that off air, but it's kind of funny. I guess we're on a similar mission to some degree, and I'm grateful that you haven't been subjected to the crap that I was with the psychotronics and synthetic telepathy. I'm really grateful they haven't hit you with anything like that.
Oh, I've been hit like crazy. It's been, I don't know if it's to the degree that you have been hit. But like I'm something, I mean, it's all been throughout my life. It's like there's a major healing of where I've just really been knocked off my center, but where it's actually like affected, everything about my nervous system. It's like, there's the PTSD, but then there's an actual like injury in the nervous system based on some of these whacks by these technologies that, and it's a constant just trying to, just as like something gets healed or grounded, it's just like whacked again. And it's just like almost every day, I almost feel like, what about you? Like, what are you going? Well, it's a constant, like I have to treat myself as if it, it's like I have to work with it. I mean, on a daily basis.
Reflectors up, Well, the sad part of mine was I was inducted. I interface with artificial intelligence, so I have anomaly signals to this day, which are they're not part of me. So I'm kind of hardwired into something else.
Right.
And I've
That's
been having to deal with that. And this is why I'm really on the front lines with covert technology and the misuse of, because, they're starting to derail consciousness, and people who are enlightened, they're trying to assimilate them into a false patterning where they want to control, manipulate, dumb down, switch off, whatever they want to do. There's so many aspects to what their agenda is, but it's definitely not in the highest good for anyone's evolution, in my opinion. Now, I mean, one day, maybe when they're ascended at a very high level, then transhumanism might work. But when they're wanting to control everybody, and, look at what's happening here in this country already without the interface with communications, for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy. But yeah, I understand. And I have a lot of compassion for you on that level, because it takes away so much of one's spiritual design work when they start interfacing and pulling people away into these dark projects that, and like I said, it's shoved under the carpet. Everybody wants UFO disclosure. What about covert technology disclosure? What about the stuff that drives this stuff? What about the MyLabs? What about the psychotronic hardware that's driving it? I mean, that's why I talk about this stuff, because nobody else does. I mean, very few people, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Like I don't know a lot of people that are out there talking about what you're talking about. I mean, I just want to ask you a bunch of questions now.
I know we should talk off air, but no, seriously. Yeah. I mean, we've gotten to these cycles before, and it sounds like, coming from your high profile background, obviously being the great-granddaughter, of Dwight Eisenhower. I mean, literally you have that energetic signature, which I'm sure is trackable. Obviously they probably never left you alone. I could be mistaken, but I seriously doubt it.
No, I don't think I've ever been left alone. I was pre-targeted before I even came in, so it's just like, okay. But I didn't really realize how much of what that really, meant, and what it was doing to my energy field, and how, I would go to certain places and certain plants would be there. And if it wasn't a plant to really just disrupt my life, it was somebody, wanting to take me off planet, which was a little bit more of a larger operation. And just, general attacks that are just, maybe just seeming to be, that's, the internet with an unstable person. I'm like, no, it's linked into something else. And this is an operation, because it's coming from 8, 9, 10 different people. And, it's just being an observer. And it's and also not, running into just this is what it is before I really know it, because there are a lot of different categories and contexts and, different, types of things. And it takes a lot to sort out, because it's enough to just try and get the energy field, rebalanced, or, it's just, and it gets really exhausting, and that, and it's So what have you been? I mean, do you mind if I ask you a question? What have you been dealing with lately?
Oh, I just deal with the interface. I mean, I have anomaly signals that I've had since 2004, since my induction. I mean, I have a documentary out on it, and I've talked about the synthetic telepathy and the artificial intelligence interface. I mean, I literally, when they want to give me a hard time, they do. I have every day. I mean, I have to literally be at the mercy of a communication system that I don't know what it's going to do to my body. So, it's basically fortifying myself as a martial artist, because I'm a black belt, and training and staying spiritually secure as best I can. But I'm telling you, man, they hack. What do they call it? A brain hack, mind hack, electromagnetic field hack, remote influencing. They can't influence me, so they try to make me uncomfortable. And that's happened since 2004. I mean, but I've tried to navigate it as best I can. But I still talk about it. And a lot of people they just scoff it off and say, oh, it's, they don't get it. But, there are classified patents out there, and there are real patents out there that can prove this technology. The developers I've talked to, we've done expert presenters here, with mind control summits and everything else. So this stuff is provable beyond a doubt. And of course, but I see where they're heading with transhumanism. I see it. And I understand that they're trying to control and manipulate the masses. And the whole thing is about consciousness. It's about containing that conscious mind, because you know how powerful you are as a multidimensional being. When you start manifesting, you can heal people, you can activate your DNA, you can do all sorts of enlightening things. We have unlimited freedom. They don't want this. They want to confine everybody into this false matrix where they can just pull you down and suck on your energy field.
Yeah.
So it's just horrible.
Yeah, it is horrible. And it's just just waking up every morning in this reality. It's okay, I mean, grounding into just nature and just, everything that's outside of the matrix is just, incredibly important. I always, it's okay, how can I, help people to know that and to know the difference? Well, it's kind of obvious. I mean, we can tell the difference between, a city kind of energy that's not really in sync with nature. None of the cities were built, on a level that they could have been. I expected floating cities in 2015, when I was a kid.
Exactly. Yes.
And, and all these technologies are being sat on. And like you were saying, it's just, we could use a lot of that, and maybe in the future there will be some of that, but the secrecy and the black ops stuff and the manipulations through the weather modification and the chemtrails, and then people that have been specifically more targeted on a concentrated level like you or like me, but in a very different way, and it's just every day, it's just kind of like, that battle zone, and there's just so many people, and, and we all know this, so I'm not going to go into like what we all say every day. And then there are these people that just like are so much more interested in the media and the television and just the entertainment industry and everything that is the Illuminati, that is the cheese that the mouse is going towards and getting the trap smacked on the back of its head. And because of that, the density for that particular creature stays pretty darn low, which means that everything is more easily absorbed. It's not transmuted, and it really and it's just like, does that person wake up one day and realize this? Or do they wake up one day and realize that there's nothing to feel anymore because they've lost the capacity to really, sense things? It's like our intuition is everything, our feeling body. And even if it's just up and down and a little bit out of whack, because we're dealing with an artificial moon and all sorts of things that compromise the numeral, the 12 signs when it should be 13, no 13th elevate, and everything is designed to completely, work us during this window period so that we walk into an artificial timeline instead of the one that's really, based on, what's been set in motion, thousands and thousands of years ago. And one could say, to compensate for the fact that we fell in density and we sunk into a lower harmonic universe and ended up becoming a 3D planet. But people have to also understand that the core sun of this planet is a 13-dimensional seed. It's an ascending planet. And, okay, well, how do we prove that? It's like, okay, well, there's a lot of research, and that's all I can say. And the way that it makes sense is, how it connects to the stargates, how it connects to our DNA, and how it connects to this time that we're in right now. And it's just...
You're spot on. You speak my language, and I love hearing you talk because I totally resonate with what you're talking about. I mean, I taught DNA activation and a lot of other things before I was inducted into the program, so that's my area as well, and I do totally resonate with that. And obviously I don't have to tell you that density is based on a frequency, and of course, once you start calibrating people to the next level of higher consciousness, they can move on, and they can see the false matrix. But right now, you're right, they don't want to shift. I mean, and the sad part of it is, it's kind of like, I think they're so intimidated to some degree. It seems to me like if they stay down, if they keep their heads down, they're not a threat to anything. They're not going to be on a radar, you know what I mean? But as soon as they start accessing higher levels of consciousness, like beings like us, we get looked at. There's no doubt about it. And there are plenty of us here on this world that get looked at on that level, on that spectrum.
Right. And this is the thing. It's like they, for example, like the breakaway civilization on Mars isn't completely established yet. I mean, they're really kind of in a vulnerable place. And so this is really, the time to act to get it where it needs to be. And, and the thing is, if everybody doesn't join in or wake up, or I don't feel like we're going to be taken down because of that. It's like, we'll still be on the track that we're on, but there is an agreement to inspire or usher as many souls as possible into, the new paradigm or on this timeline that is all about, working things on the ground level, changing the nature of the political world that we've been seeing, and disclosing these technologies and getting them to the people that really need, assistance and help in food, and that, everything else, that people have been, talking about and whistleblowers have been talking about is going to fit, right into that. And, I'm amazed at, and I think there should be greater numbers, but, there is just enough. It's like, it's all out there, and I don't know. I mean, and we can really do a lot more than I think we realize, just with focused intention and the words we choose to speak and the actions that we choose to take, and just the things that we do on a day-to-day basis. It's part of the fabric of, okay, this is, there is no I have clients that come, what's my purpose? It's like, we have a joint purpose. There's a collective purpose. There's no shortages of purposes. If there's something unique to you, yes, I'm here to help you find that. But people have to really, really understand that, we're all called, every single one of us, really has to understand this. And if, we're dealing with a different species or something else that came in, and, I'm into being, diplomatic and making sure everybody's got their needs met, let's just, kind of figure this out. And, there's going to be certain instincts that are very hostile or difficult for, some of the vulnerable, there's 7 billion of us, but the vulnerable humanity that's here. But they've been around for long enough to know exactly what, they're dealing with, and we're starting to realize what we're dealing with. And, if we really step back, I mean, we've got the upper hand a lot more than they do, even if they have the ability on a physical level to create more destruction. It's like there's an energy, you know, and the energy that's beyond the physical has, I would say, a lot more dominion and a lot more of a say about where things are going. And, you know, I'm not saying completely and totally detach from the physical and like let go of all fear of death and like don't even worry about it or care about it and just put yourself out there and like, hey, take a bullet. I mean, I'm not encouraging that, even though, you know, I am. I mean, but then I totally understand if that's not where you completely feel called. But
well, it might get to that for everybody if this goes down a spiral. You know, if it gets any worse, you know, people really need to take a good look at it on a more serious level, if you ask me. But, you know, around the frequency fences, you know, I think about the frequency fences and all this technology and the array systems that they're using right now to control, manipulate the masses, which aren't fully really deployed right now. And I'm thinking to myself, there's a big ocean of universal energy out there. And there's no way in hell that frequency fence is unstoppable. I mean, in my opinion, that ocean is just going to knock it all down. And even this technology that they think is so wonderful and high and mighty is going to go flatline. So that's my opinion. And I really believe that down the road that it's going to be stopped because it's gotten out of control. But, you know, when you talk about Mars, I'm wondering, we talk about the breakaway societies here. And I'm wondering, why Mars, first of all? Why not another planet? What do you think about that?
I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the life on Mars got wiped out. It's actually a planet that, you know, has been trying to heal from that ever since. You know, I share a lot of information, and all I can say, you know, to people that are listening, you know, I'm doing, you know, my best to put it in chronological order and just like get all of it out and to create some sort of explanation, but I'm not going to have it all. So hopefully this will awaken the desire to explore more. And, you know, we have our things to say to just really set the stage. But Maldek, you know, exploded, Tiamat exploded. Both of them are asteroid belts. From the research I've done, Tiamat is an asteroid belt in, you know, the upper higher dimensional Earth energy, like in like, I guess 5D, which is a timeline that's been, you know, hijacked, but we've gotten it back. Like the Warriors are like, really? I don't think so. You know, we'll create a whole new timeline before you take this down. It's just not going to happen. And then there's Maldek, and supposedly that's an asteroid belt in sort of this particular sector of the galaxy. And there's a lot of, you know, asteroids that influence us, and the asteroids are a part of the asteroid belt. And so the asteroids connect us with our galactic consciousness. And so when it comes to Mars, supposedly around the time that Maldek exploded, and even, you know, with Tiamat, it was starting to create a rift between how Venus and Mars were kind of getting along as sort of celestial bodies that represent archetypal, you know, stories and myths that ended up playing out. And, you know, and because we're dealing with a lot of different timelines, we're dealing with multidimensional realities and everybody having their own experience. We can't like limit it to one story or one way. And so I just look at Mars like, well, we know that the life got wiped off. And from what folks like Randy Kramer, Captain K, has said in interviews is that the indigenous races there are still, you know, dealing with a lot of, you know, trauma from that. And maybe along the way, it's just there was some decision to or some agreement to establish a Mars colony, which are mostly, you know, underground, because the relations were actually, you know, pretty good between humans and the indigenous races. And it was a little testy, he said, but his job was to protect the Mars colonies. And along the way, yeah, there was a major attack and a major war, and it's better out of his mouth than mine. But, you know, there's all sorts of things, you know, just from our ancient history, and also because we're dealing with different factors with time and space when we leave this planet and we go out there. You know, we're also like, I mean, he said there's bases on Saturn, you know, and we know that Valiant Thor, you know, comes from Venus, and that he comes from within the planet. Like they live inside the planet, and then there's stuff going on the moon. And so, you know, Mars, I don't think, you know, I mean, if Randy says it, I have to pretty much say, okay, if that's what you say. But I know that there's always like more room to, you know, to look at information and to say, okay, well, where does this piece go? And he does that, you know, with just his own process. Right. But with the Mars thing, it's like, okay, the location, I think, is one factor. And that because there were, there was something going on in Atlantis between Egypt and Mars, there's like something within some of these power structures that have like wanted to, you know, maybe establish something. But the thing is, along the way, you know, some of these agendas get infiltrated. It's like, you know, there can be a plan, there can be an idea and this and that. And, you know, whatever the judgment of whoever's doing it is good or evil. I think if you're abusing people, if there's manipulation, if there's mind control, if there's anything that goes against a person's will and they're being harmed in any way, okay, that's isolated as, if that's infiltrating anything, this needs to be reversed, because it can't, the human trajectory cannot go down a timeline where they're the skipper, and they're doing all this with everything that they're sitting on. And so anyway, so Mars just seems like it just meets a certain number of criteria, and something about the moon and their ability to become a breakaway civilization and establish new world order. This is basically, we're going from an agenda that used to be about protecting the human genome and taking DNA and kind of like in the event of maybe a catastrophe that, there is sort of like this backup. And then it's like, where is it now? What is it now? Completely and totally infiltrated by, like all the names that make us cringe, let's just say. The Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergs, the Illuminati, just everything that is where it's just obvious. Okay, here's the elitists. They've got the technology. Nobody's getting their needs met. In actual fact, the same thing is still happening. It's just a new news story to, hook humans into the bait. And I just know we're just gonna knock this. I want to say the SHIT. It's like I have a really bad mouth lately, and so I'm just like taking a deep breath. But like, we're gonna knock this stuff out this year and like beyond. And we each, have our role. It's like, and this is why it's so wonderful to keep the dialogue alive, because and I know we'll talk off air, but like the more I understand completely and totally, and I think I'm still in the midst of a video I set aside that you sent to me that I was going through a lot during the time, and so I put it in a special place. But yeah, so there's just really assessing the situation. I'm just continually, just like anybody who's wanting to make a difference and seeing what we're up against. It's like we have to just keep assessing the situation. Right. And yeah.
Well, I think the more you know, the more you educate yourself, the more you understand technology. And I think for me, understanding the technological beast is huge, because once you understand the array system, the artificial intelligence, the black satellites, and everything that deals with psychotronics, you will understand the bigger scenery, because the psychotronics tie into my labs, military abductions. I'm not saying people went to Mars or didn't go to Mars, but I do know psychotronic programming will create a false matrix, and they will pretend they've gone someplace and they've gone nowhere. It's just like that movie Total Recall. So that is something to concern us with. Totally. So I mean, I'm looking at it from a very scientific level, because I know where I've been with this technology. I know what they do with it. I can read them very, very well. But I will say, I mean, and that doesn't mean that we don't have star people and star beings who are here, obviously, like yourself and others. Obviously, they're here, and we do have multidimensional access and design. But I do know they hate that. They want to control it. They want to manipulate it. They want to shut it down, and they will stop at nothing to do so. And I think that's why you and I have a fire lit under our butts right now, because it's like quite obvious to me what the agenda is, and I think people really need to pay attention, to be honest.
Oh, it's like, how can they not? It's like you're watching the news every night, and you're going to go vote for like somebody who has somebody who's written a book about being assaulted, and being abused, and being like, being, I mean, Hillary Clinton has sex slaves, and it's like, and God knows what else, and it's like, and people are going to go vote for this. It's just, it's so unbelievably mind blowing. And it's like that alone. It's just like, how can you, once you get this information, because I can understand it's hard. Maybe you just haven't Googled it, or maybe it just hasn't come under the radar. That's great, because I'm going to put it under your nose and then wonder, like, after a year, if you've done nothing and you're still like being some political freak with your flag, thinking it's all about, you're going to go vote. Like, wow, you were exposed to this information, and, the police force, you were exposed to this information and you did nothing, because, I know Kathy O'Brien, and like, we know each other, and it's like the numbers of this was me and my experience is increasing, and it can't be silenced and not listened to, because that's like saying, wow, you're no different than a child, saying, I've been molested at school, I've been harmed, and then the mom being in denial or the dad being in denial. It's like, and it's like, there's no excuse anymore, because it's going to be so in your face. And I feel like I've been doing this, and like we've been doing it. It's just like, hey, well, didn't I do that last year? Didn't I do that year? Well, this year is going to be even more like.
I'm telling you, I know, and then I kind of get burned out sometimes, because I've been doing a lot of speakings. Obviously, I do the radio show and I write my books, but it gets boring after a while, insofar as nothing's moving, nothing's changing. I know it must be on a multidimensional level, but yeah, you just see it going down, down, down. And I agree with you. I mean, I think your great-grandfather must be rolling in his grave insofar as what's happened in D.C. and the White House and everything else. I mean, it's a fiasco. It's embarrassing. We need to get some really good quality people in there And I don't know what it's going to take to have good people again.
Yeah, I don't even know. My mom was even telling me, she lives in D.C. She goes, I'm embarrassed to live here. She goes, I got to get the hell out of here. She's like, she's not Democrat. She's not Republican. She's like, I'm humiliated for supporting Obama. You know, she spoke at the Democratic convention and was one of, you know, the people that did a speech, you know, to support him becoming president when he first, was running for office. Mm-hmm. And I was visiting back home, and I'm not used to having these sort of conversations. It's usually, okay, I'm just going to kind of like wait till, you know, the right moment to maybe pounce with some of the stuff I know, which I do. And sometimes it really, I mean, I'm not going to go into it all, but just hearing like the dissatisfaction and just like, you know, maybe, I mean, just the few that have integrity in DC, just, and my mom might be one of them. And I'm not, you know, I'm not going to make a thing about her and what her beliefs are, but, you know, it's like there's nothing there for people. And it's just, mm-hmm. and the people that there is something there for, they're the parasites, and they're the ones that, like, you know, are you know, enabling this. They're agents to it. They are, you know, they you know, are you know, put in a role and given all the perks and protected from that stuff to just play that you know, that TV character for everybody to say, okay, let's consider him. Maybe he'd be a good candidate. And I'm not saying that folks in the past, like Ron Paul and others, haven't been good. Me personally, and people might have judgment about it, I want nothing to do with any of them. I've never voted, ever. And I will not vote until I'm convinced that this, you know, that things are cleaned up enough to where I'm not wasting my time on voting day putting some sort of criminal molester, you know, person that has, like, you know, humans that have been, you know, harmed to serve whatever sickness they've got. And it's
Mm-hmm.
It's not even a sickness. I mean, what do you even call it?
I call it a brain virus and some kind of mind control. I mean, literally, I mean, you can't tell me they know what's going on. I know they know about covert technology and the misuse of psychotronic hardware. I know they know about electromagnetic pulse weapons because it's creating all these Manchurian candidates. They use it. The CIA loves using all this technology. The government, the military, they like using it because it works. And they're not going to open their mouths about it because they've been getting away with it for too long unless whistleblowers come forward. And you know what happens to people who come forward, you know. But literally, I mean, it has to stop. I mean, and this is one of the biggest beasts and demons of this world and in this country is the misuse of technology. And we've got people out there in D.C. who are willingly participating with misusing this technology. And that's my big thing, too.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. They're very sadistic. There's a dark side to them that's just disgusting. I'd like to see it shift. I'd like to see it change. And I can't for the life of me figure out how it is that beings like us are good souls, multidimensional. We do the best thing we can on this world. We try our best to support everybody here on the highest level. And then we've got these dirtbags that are just running the show and manipulating everybody. And everybody is going hurrah, hurrah for them.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's less. I don't care what it takes, and it's just, and I know that the guidance will come, and that's how it works for people on missions like us. But yeah, it's insane. I mean, and we're a joke to them, and the thing is, it's like we you know, turning it around and saying we're watching you, you're a joke to us. It's just like, you know, for everything that you think that you can say and like think you can get away with, there's a number of us that are going to like have an ear out for that, and we're going to shove it right back into the human population so that they can see like what you're talking about, like behind the scenes. And it's like there's no rest, and it's just like this is game over, and it has been for a long time. But I really feel like, you know, this year it's like, because there's nowhere else to go, you know, and that's the thing, because there's no like, oh, I'm just going to take a little break and just go to, you know, and just hang out on the beach. It's like, I can't are you kidding me? Like, I can't relax. I'm not going to be able, you know, and it's just, yeah. So I'm just grateful that so many of us are called and we're completely on, and there's no real way to just, I mean, there has to be like a little bit of a balance that we get a little bit of, you know,
it's too corrupt. We need balance on this world. It's too much. There's too much evil right now, in my opinion. I think we need to really balance it out and flush out all this. And unfortunately, we have people in the illusion of power who are not good people. That's the biggest problem we have here. That all of a sudden, everybody who's in the underground, and not everybody, but a great majority, are literally corrupted. They're like corrupted programs and files, is the way I see them. But, you know, sometimes I wonder if beings like us are just on the wrong planet there, Laura. I mean, I'm wondering if I don't believe I'm supposed to be on planet Earth. I really, really don't. And maybe we've outgrown this planet to such a level we just can't stay here anymore. But, you know, we shouldn't be penalized. You know, I don't know. I don't have all the answers.
No, there's no, it doesn't matter what human laws are, because most of whoever, you know, has created them, like, aren't coming from, you know, a human agenda of like, let's, be more like a family. Let's have family values. The parts of us that care about our relationship and our children should be the parts of us that look out for our neighbor and build, a structure that, takes care of everybody based on those principles and based on integrity. That doesn't exist in this world. So yeah, we are not matrix people at all, and we're here for Gaia. And the thing is, we're not saving Gaia. Gaia is a multidimensional body. I believe she, has agreed to allow this particular pocket of her body, go through this so that we can see what, is happening, look at what's happening to our environment. So you can't say that people like us are crazy because the proof's in the pudding. It's like, look at the sky, look at this, look at that. It's like, eventually, when more gets, I guess, put out there to make people scratch their head and like look at Hillary in a different way, people like us are going to be, like, look at them. And they're really champions for Mother Earth. And it's just like, I know people will turn around because as an astrologist, you can see, certain landmarks and things on a person's path where, they can be walking along completely unconscious and completely asleep. And then some kind of big event, is coming down the pike, or it happened not too long ago. They haven't quite processed it yet. And it's rerouting them and it's changing them. And it's giving them exactly what they need. And so we just have to be there when they're ready to look to us.
And also people are tied into the earth energy as well, the holographic grid. But, when they become uncomfortable, I think they'll wake up. I don't think they're uncomfortable yet. I really don't. They're
not uncomfortable enough. And the thing is, just the whole kind of the mind control stuff where it seems as though, and this, more, because, this is definitely what your attention has been on and what you've gone through, to just the ability to target a person and have them do whatever they want, and then, unswitch them. It's like the amount of times I've seen somebody, and I know that you know exactly, you probably even have terminologies for this. When a person gets turned on to do a job, and it's not necessarily it's almost like they're scanning a crowd to see, okay, who's the easiest to just target right now to then target somebody who's a real threat, and it's just humans have become weapons. And
yeah, absolutely.
And it's just,
they weaponize everything. I mean, everything is weaponized. Our skies are weaponized. The world, the earth is becoming a weaponized formula, terraformed or whatever. People are being weaponized without a doubt, and that's part of the artificial intelligence interface. But they triangulate the electromagnetic field remotely, and they can actually access anybody because the body's electrical. It's a conductor, transmitter, receiver, so they can remotely access and hack into anybody on this planet. And they've gotten to a point where they have an array system now that can actually simultaneously hit everybody. And that means they can drop your vitals. You think I'm kidding, folks? I am not.
Yeah, and I feel like something huge happened towards the end of December. There are times, I'm not trying to get all kind of dramatic here about, but there's so many times where it's just I've just flown out of my body or something crazy has happened. I'm like, I'm gonna have to go to the freaking hospital. I'm like, but I'm not gonna go to the freaking. It's just okay, I need to go to the hospital. It's like, okay, then call 911. I'm like, nope, I'm good. And then it's okay. And then
don't go to the hospital.
Yeah, and work the energy and this and that. And but yeah, it's there's because of the shift that we're in and because of the Uranus-Pluto transits, we're dealing with the electrical light energy that is connected with Uranus. Uranus kind of brings it in. It affects our nervous system. People have panic attacks when they can't anchor it or ground it or make sense out of it. And when somebody can kind of make sense out of it or at least kind of ride the waves a little bit, it helps them with great epiphanies. It helps them to sort of recognize the things that need to kind of go away so that new structures can be built. But of course, we're not taught to handle this. And so, there's a lot of electrical. I mean, I feel that, of course, these electrical manipulations are also to completely, make it very difficult to bring in the real, electricity that's coming from spirit or coming from.
Yeah, the Ascension energy, light body.
Yeah, and the magnetics of the planet and the natural stargates opening and everything that is available to us. And the thing is, it's just well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And it's well, getting into the story a little bit, not the victim story so much, but I mean, let's just have our moments for God's sake, that's victim consciousness. Do you have any idea what some of us go through? And maybe, it's okay to have a moment and to just be what the, okay, I'm sorry. I've been so fired up the last couple weeks.
Oh, no, you sound like me sometimes. You and I can get pretty fired up on conversation, I'm sure. But yeah, no, I agree with you totally. And if people have gone through where we've been, and I mean, I don't think they would survive. So, I mean, honestly, I don't think they would. They should count their blessings every day. They have peace of mind. food on the table, and people that love them. Because I'll tell you what, man, if you ever get subjected to where I've been, you people will wish you were dead. I kid you not. It's a horrible little program. And I'm not playing the victim. I didn't play the victim. I took my power back by exposing the technology and the parties involved. I wasn't about to just crawl in a corner somewhere or hide under a carpet. Heck no. That's not my style.
What was the name of the project again?
Well, it's based on artificial intelligence, black technology, and interface with artificial intelligence, basically, and synthetic telepathy. I don't know what the exact project name was. I can tell you where I've been with it and the stuff they did with the pattern recognition and some other things during the induction, which dealt with a lot of numbers, codes, and serial numbers and things like that. So it's pretty extensive. And, of course, the synthetic telepathy with the live handler real time. And it goes on and on. It's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
So, but I fought it. Laura. And the bottom line is when I was being manipulated, I pushed them back. And I will tell you, man, this is the type of technology that anybody can get pulled into, if you ask me.
Right.
So,
right.
I just give people a heads up. I'm not trying to be here saying, fearmonger. I'm not doing that. I'm just telling people is technology out there that you guys need to be prepared for. It's part of the transhumanism agenda. And if you have an electromagnetic field, if you have electricity running through your body, if you have a neural circuitry that functions, you are accessible. And that's it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, it's so important that you share too, because just on every level, also your ability to be where you are today and what you're able to overcome, and like how, it's such incredible strength. And so it's like, and it's amazing because, a lot of people run the other way because this stuff freaks them out, but you don't have to run. Look at, she survived this, she went through this. So what are you running from? The information? You don't have to run from this person though, who went through it and can, give you, pieces that you need to protect yourself, because it's not just, it's not just the isolated thing that, was a much stronger and more powerful version that would take a person to a level that, they absolutely wouldn't survive. But they're getting enough of it to have it tweak them just enough, of course, to completely reroute them on a course that they don't need to be going down. And it's like, and the thing is, it's just like when you handle it on the level that you did, it's just like, you pretty much cover like the whole terrain of like, how to know to speak the language, but also get to the heart and the core of that individual that might be freaking out, knowing like, wow, okay, look at where you are today. I'm sure they still are at you, but.
Well, because I'm hardwired and I have an anomaly signal, I can get screwed with remotely. And that doesn't mean that they can control my brain and mind or actions, but they can mess with me quite a bit, health-wise. That's the biggest problem I have with them right now. And of course, this is never mentioned. I'd love to go over to D.C. and just go, hey, dude, knock on the White House door and say, would you mind turning off your array system? Do you mind? Right. Seriously. And it's not just me. There are a lot of different people who are calibrated for different types of technology, but it's all experimental. And I'll tell you, since I was inducted in 2004, they've had huge, huge breakthroughs in synthetic telepathy. The battlefield and covert technology, military, they use synthetic telepathy. It works. And I can understand why, because you'll save somebody's butt on a battlefield, and I get that, and that's fine. But you don't hurt people. You don't do it to regular people. You just can't. You can't just go around and controlling, manipulating, and harming people with this technology. And now it's being kind of sold on the black market where anybody can access it. We're not talking about the United States anymore. We're talking global syndicate. Global areas of people who have access. Whoever wants to have a toy.
Yeah.
So, it gets pretty ugly, and that's why I address it, because it's not just La La Land. And think about your children. What kind of world are these kids going to grow up in? What? They're going to be stuck to their iPhones? There's no sky anymore because it's all chemtrails and pollutants. We've got, barium, and we've got all sorts of crap falling from the skies that people are inhaling. And, of course, the nanos involved.
Yeah.
It goes on and on, Laura. I could just go on and spin.
Oh, no, I know. And I know that you know it in a way, like, I know it, like, I could write a lot about it, but it's like, you can break, and I know that like your knowledge base about it is just like, I don't know if anybody can speak on this subject in a way, in the way that you do. The person that was going to recruit me to Mars, it was like, he was, like he would get phone calls and like he would just get some sort of coding over the phone and then disappear and not remember where he went. And, and it was just like, okay, all right, this is what I'm dealing with. And I knew that the beings that he was talking to that, had to do with us going to Mars were not, I was like, this is something, and I didn't have Project Camelot or anything. So I'm like, this is something connected to like military stuff. And I even said artificial telepathy. This is not real telepathy. And I kept researching these names. And it was just like everything had kind of been destroyed. And it wasn't until 2010 that somebody came up with a website with all these characters that were associated with the Mars recruitment. that associated with them, with the technologies and the things that I was picking up on.
Right.
And then Bernard Mendez, as a whistleblower, came out and was saying the stuff that you were saying about the synthetic environment. So, there are a lot of different factors here.
Now, well, you know the difference, and I know how sensitive you are and psychic you are naturally, and anybody who's natural psychic or telepathically natural, whenever most people are, once they're fine-tuned to higher levels of frequency and consciousness, you will know the difference immediately between a synthesized communication system, a mock radio communication system is what I call it, not voice to skull, mock radio communication system. And of course, they interface you on, but they'll always have a live handler to control and manipulate real time. And then they interface it onto artificial intelligence. They get you calibrated and adjusted with your vitals, and then they interface it so that you become, well, it's transhumanism, if you ask me.
Yeah, and so if it's been around, I mean, it's been around for a long time, and it's and this is the secrecy of what the 3-letter organizations have been doing, and why there hasn't been disclosure, because they were waiting till the agenda got to a certain point where they could disclose and it wouldn't compromise what they're trying to what they're trying to build here. And I mean, that's kind of what I'm getting, like, why isn't there disclosure? I'm like, oh, there will be, but they're waiting until we're at a certain point where they've got, everything where they want it to be.
But so, even then, Laura, what are they going to disclose? We already know there's reverse engineered craft. We already know there's an off-world intelligence.
Just a joke.
It is a joke. It really is. And all of us who have been inducted or abducted as MyLabs, or whether we've been pulled in whatever species or whatever off-world underground, I mean, literally, we know more probably than they do. And they'll sit there and try to give a song and a dance. I mean, like I said, I'm pushing for the exposure of the array system. I'm pushing for the people that are misusing mind control technology that have been screwing people over for centuries and decades. Not even centuries, but for a very long time. And that's what I really am pushing towards, because to me, that's more important than any UFO.
Oh, I mean,
disclosure.
You can find, totally, because you can find a lot of books. There's millions of people that have had abduction contact experiences. So the disclosures already happened. So stop looking, to your governments. If anything, exactly. It's like what needs to be exposed, and the disclosure that needs to happen is these, technologies that are being used. And, it's like, let's move on from the UFO, ET thing. I mean, I think, we don't have to look far for that. The government's saying that exists is like, as cheesy as like having the Pope, tell us that whatever, like, look at what the Pope said, which means that all those that are religious are going to like shift and change and just go along with it because he's the token man that's like here to, guide the masses. It's just like, no, nobody's guiding the masses. We're holding, those that have been in power accountable. We're the powers that be. They never really were, but the use of this technology is like, the ability to, harness energy the way that they are. It's like, it doesn't even matter, about ascension to them, because they got the technologies that are going to keep them alive as long as they like. And it's just, and any path that like, is really kind of like, okay, a path of expansion, a path of, love, universal love, connecting to the earth, the stargates being activated, the Venus transits that are going on, and the things that are just helping us to override a lot of this is just as available. But we can't just blindly go into we're just going to ascend and do all this stuff without, at least for me, and I'm not saying if that's not your path and you're not called to it, I totally respect that. But like without going, of course, and you're the same as me on this, and it's different too with, what you've gone through. And like, this is 2004, and the recruitment for me was 2006, but it wasn't, I wasn't thrust into it in a certain way. I had to just be like detective. I had to just be watchful, and I had to just not be manipulated and played because they were like, oh, you're protected, you're going to have this great position and this and that. I'm like, that is all BS, But anyway, it's like, yeah, it's like, this transhumanism thing, really does have to do with, plugging into something that already, is somewhat in agreement to it, and everything else that isn't, that same nervous system thing that might be targeted is also the same nervous system thing that's going to stimulate the anger, the rage, the fire. That's a part of like the fire of this planet that's going to do her work, because this is the point that we're at. And it's like, this is a very loving planetary body. I'm not going into the goddess aspect of it or humanizing it, but it's like, come on, it's a consciousness just like any planet. It's if you don't get it now, it's just like, sorry, wherever that ends up taking you. And I'm sure there's going to be like a ship of spirit guides that are going to come rescue your ass later on, or give you like some sort of inspiration, maybe, through dreams, just something to give you like a little bit of boost or a little bit of assistance. But, these are choices people are making, and I have compassion, but I don't know. I'm not feeling like really fluffy at all right now.
Oh, I'm not either. I've done my share of running light and love, believe me. And I'm not mean at all. Don't get me wrong, but I've been through a lot, and I'm seeing it as an observer right now, as a sacred witness. But it is given to you according to your beliefs. As you know, we manifest at will our own reality, and then there's the manifestation, and then there's the higher self over so superconscious. There's the whole spectrum of things. So even when people are looking for UFO disclosure, as we were talking, it's really about seeing with multidimensional eyes, because once you start navigating on that level of consciousness, it's not a big deal to encounter any kind of craft or any kind of off-world race. I mean, as long as they're not hostile. But I see the majority of hostility is coming from the underground and these complexes with the black technology.
Yeah, and it's just like, I'm sorry, but who cares what comes out of anybody in the government's mouth? Like, when it comes to any of this, we're all having our personal experiences. We're all seeing what we're seeing. Some people are being contacted. Some people have had abduction experiences. And, it's just like we have pretty much everything we need to, look to one another. It's like, I don't know. I just, all that's got to be starved. And I know, like, this next election, some pretty big things, could potentially happen to, expose, like the disclosure being Hillary Clinton being humiliated instead of like some politician, saying something about, yeah, I saw a craft the other day. I think there might be life out there. It's just like, oh, shut up. Sorry.
It's so true.
Because they say such little things, and it's like even Clinton, and it's just like, well, maybe in his eyes, this is all I can reveal because it's a matter of national security. And it's like, and all that is wrapped up in just the greatest abuses and the most inhumane
They're securing the lies is what they're securing, Laura. And the bottom line is the reason they have quote-unquote national security is because they don't want starseeds like us accessing our multidimensional design and avatar abilities. That's what it's about. It's about controlling consciousness, mind control, pulling us into false matrices, doing whatever it takes to secure their lies. And I am done with it, and I know you are, and I'm sure plenty others are as well.
And it's awesome, and that is what I feel we're moving into 2015 with. Up until like January 1st or sometime around, it's just like there was such, and I'm sure you felt it. I know a lot of people felt it, just like heaviness and just like real like intensity and just like, moving through the layers. Like I felt like we were moving through frequency fences. It's like, and just whatever seals have been put in our DNA, and a lot of those codings, have a lot of suicide programmings so that when people are like ready to bust through and get to the next level, they got the murkiness of like what they got to go through to get to the other side is almost like, oh my God, did you, like, I made it, did you make it? Like, it's almost like a buddy system. Like, are you okay? Did you get out? It's like we moved through something huge, and this is why it's so great the way we're starting 2015, because it's just kind of like keeping all that in check. It's like, and I'm sick of people like, oh, you're just depressed. And it's like, depressed? It's like waking up in how can you possibly call that depression, Or even anger, like, you maybe anger issues. And
it's about situation awareness and frustration because nothing's getting done.
Exactly. And it's just like, enough with the labels, people, because it controls people. And it's like, okay, well, I need to work this out. I need to heal this. And it's like, let's address it. And, we do want to, be at our optimal, but I would rather have just people look at each other and say, what is going on? Let's all talk to each other. Let's all be a part of a greater dialogue instead of having the superficial conversations and then everybody going home completely depressed, completely like, at their wit's end. It's like, we got to move through these, fences and count on one another. To me, that's unity consciousness, is not just, let's just gather together and just like be like, no, it's like, we have to go through the initiations of being authentic and genuine and knowing who we really are and knowing what we're bringing to the table, and then respecting the differences, but knowing that like our job is to create harmony, and that comes through mutual respect and really being able to, listen with a certain level of, like, okay, that's your part, this is my part. And, the dialogue doesn't have to be debate and fighting, arguing, but more like supporting like the uniqueness. I mean, that's the web of life. And so, and I see more and more of that. And the ones that are having the hardest of times aren't just having a mildly hard time. The ones that like want to destroy people like you and me are just completely come in and just say, I mean, even like in mid-December, somebody said, my mission in life is to destroy you. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. That's really awesome. And it's like, I'm like, okay, you know what? I mean, you can try, like, I think, the whole alphabet plan A through Z has already been done, but hey, by all means, give it a shot. Yeah.
I mean, we can talk off air about a lot of things where I've had some interesting comments made in my direction too. But yeah, it's kind of like, you just stand fortified. That's all there is to it. I don't get intimidated at all, and I'm not afraid of anything.
Oh, got it.
It's like,
totally.
So yeah, and we're going to head for a break real quick. Everybody, please stay tuned with Laura Magdalene Eisenhower. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dark Matter Radio Network. And this is Hyperspace. This is Solaris, BlueRaven. And I'm here with my very special guest, Laura Magdalene Eisenhower. Laura, are you with me?
Yes, I am.
All right. And what a pleasure it is to have you on this evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's such a nice conversation, too. And I mean, I totally resonate where you're coming from. So it's really refreshing to have this conversation.
Yes. I'm just really enjoying myself because it's just like, this is what's real right now, and there's no other way I can be, and it's just nice, and it's like nothing's gonna like put you in any other place except for like where just your passion lies and where justice is needed, and also just the abilities and some of the tools and the things that are available to us that we just have to learn how to like tap into. This isn't the first planet this kind of thing has happened on. Mm-hmm. And, just in some of my research, I don't know how much you've researched this, but, very interesting how, many, places, we're dealing with the exact same sort of thing. In actual fact, a lot of, there's a lot of different species. We're dealing with a lot of, ET races and a lot of different types of, a lot of different types of species within that one race. And of course, it's not all good and not all bad. And it's not like, it's a very vast cosmos. And, and it's amazing. I think, there's also a lot in our memory banks, even though we have amnesia and that's part of the vulnerability they take advantage of. We have a lot, we can really, tap into. And I know I keep saying tap into. It's like, okay, tap into. And, people that, have come here that have a lot of knowledge and ability about how to, and I'm, and I know that like, you're one of those people that you go through something like that, but you come out the other side, turning around and, taking it down with the strength and that was built along the way, but also the knowledge that you gained, and also the fact that like maybe in their eyes this is what they created with you, but like on a deeper like higher oversoul like much different level soul everything else is like I don't think so, and they can't they don't have the ability to hear that or to feel it or to know that exists. Mm-hmm. So the same thing with the Mars thing. It's just like, oh, we've completely got her. And it was just like mainly the most of my life up to maybe 10 years ago was knowing that they think they have me. And I'm going to, and all I need to do is like, let them know that they absolutely do not. And it's not just like, oh, by the way, I'm going to send you a little email. It's like in every action, every word I say and everything that I do and every, message or correspondence that exists. And, just like you, it's like, there's no fear at all. In actual fact, it's like fear. It's like, there's not time to, have fear.
I don't have time for that.
Yeah. And like, maybe, maybe like certain fears that are a little bit different. And I was writing about it the other day where I don't mean matrix fears that are, pushed out on us to, get trapped and enslaved, but, just normal fear of where the body recognizes danger and knows to divert itself from being in harm's way. I mean, that's a little bit different.
And that's another thing they do with the mind control. They'll calibrate people to be in dangerous situations so that they don't feel the danger, which I think is a real bad thing. It's a bad idea, if you ask me, because you need that radar to detect when you're in danger so you can get out of the way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, but what year was that with the Mars mission and the invite?
2006.
Wow. So who were these people exactly? Where did they come from?
Well, like I said, when I was okay, so I was at a festival, and when this person approached me, it was like I was not able to deal with any of the people he was going to secret meetings with, and everything was being done through him. But I was paying attention to all the names he was dealing with. Maybe I would have been speaking with them at a later time. He was calling one of them a handler. And basically, he was going to secret meetings in DC, and so I was paying attention to their names. I want to be sort of careful because I've said their names before, but I will tell people. I mean, it's all out there. What am I thinking? I mean, does it really matter? If you Google the aviary and you put in the name John Alexander, you'll see the list of people, and there's actually a particular website that talks about the stuff we're talking about, psychotronic weaponry, my labs, and all this sort of stuff. And basically, they had kind of like pulled him into it. Right. They pulled him into it and targeted him to target me, but it wasn't just that was his only role, but it was like, you know, they didn't really have any other way to get to me except for that. And they were hoping that like I would be like, oh, of course I'm going to go to Mars with you because I love you so much. And or that I would, you know, I mean, that would be like one way, but with a lot of other things to make it a larger case, you know, like this is what's going to happen when you're there. This is what your position will be. And, you know, so anyway.
Wow. That sounds like such a mind game.
Yeah. And they're called the aviary. And what they're considered is a branch. This is what I've gotten in my research. They're considered a branch of MJ-12. And they're basically like advisors to the CIA. And basically they've got something called the Weird Desk. And they take a lot of the crazy UFO cases and they just kind of analyze it. That's kind of the cover story of what this group is about. And I'm like, no. They're up to something else. There's more going on here because the person that was set up to go to the festival to find me, who I had a karmic connection with. It wasn't just me falling for some agent. I mean, I knew him from past lives. It was like they had gotten him. They had completely like taken him. And I was going to try and get him out, and I was going to try and help him. I was never going to go to Mars. It was not in my thinking. So, you know, everything, you know, surrounding, you know, this whole process has been the organic, you know, timeline and, you know, seeing just how the mind control is, you know, really, you know, trying to guide this process of alternative 3 and like going, you know, off planet. And, you know, maybe in their eyes, you know, they need to be controlled. They need to be mind controlled because they're not going to go for this or do it. But, you know, it's not working with natural laws. It's not working with cosmic laws to be making a decision like this because of like, you know, what certain species in the future timelines did to themselves that they need us to, you know, and then with that whole loop, it's like, okay, let's lift that off. And then here's humanity completely compromised and completely vulnerable on the surface of the earth. So I know I kind of jumped around, but if anybody wants to know who these folks are, you can Google the aviary. And there's some names that you might have heard of, some kind of well-known physicists, but they're all a part of the group and they were part of the Mars recruitment. And of course, you're not going to see that on the website, but you are going to see the psychotronic weaponry and the gang stalking
that's bad news.
And the artificial telepathy. I was like, hey, I called that one out. I'm like, the website came out in 2010. I'm like, in 2006, I knew, you know, everything that I was sensing. It was like listed on this website. I'm just like, all right, you know, I have an intuition. Everything's, at least I got, you know, it was like so much making sure that certain things didn't happen. And actually, you know, I was definitely prepared as a child and on a lot of different levels. So it's amazing how they have a lot of plans. They use quantum access technologies, time travel, and all sorts of ways to manipulate and get names and like target and do all this. Right. But like, and here, like, there's also like what, you know, what have I been doing on a soul level to come in to this story and be absolutely unprepared to know exactly how to handle it. It's like, you know, they think they were prepared. It's like, hey, I'm prepared too. And so are you. And it's just like, this is what's so incredible because it's not just, you know, yanking one in and doing all this. It's like, there's a whole nother thing going on. And,
truly.
And I can just feel it. And I can just feel it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's all manipulation. And the funny thing is, you know, I was able to run with the technology. I didn't think the technology wasn't the problem. It was the way the handler was treating me. It was the way they were remotely assaulting me. It was the things they were trying to do to alter me and change my identity and create alters. That's the problem I had with these people and the abuse and basically the abuse of power and the illusion of. So yeah, I mean, you have to have a moral compass, in my opinion, when you're being involved in these programs, whether they're black technology or regular government. And of course, that doesn't seem to exist for whatever reason. This Keystone Cops are either Keystone Cops or they're these funky weirdos who are caught in quantum, you know, strangeness. You know, I had some weirdo from Germany that actually wanted to watch me for 3 days. He flew out from Germany. He said, can I just kind of observe you for a few days? And I was just like, get the hell away from me.
Oh, my God.
Okay. Now, I'm serious.
I don't doubt it.
So I'm like, I'm not a lab rat. Okay. So it's just really strange. I think there's a lot of weird stuff happening on this timeline and the illusion of, and I think exposing it and getting clarity is really big. So, because anything can happen through the mind. I mean, when you start dealing with psychotronics, I mean, visuals, this, that, false things can emerge. I mean, but you have to keep your clarity and stay grounded. And of course, I know you're grounded too, but I think that has a lot to do with ascended consciousness and being a multidimensional being and being very anchored in that. And to me, if I had to guess about you, I'd say you were born or created a master, which means you had all the components before you entered onto this world, which gave you that access and clarity. And coming from your bloodline too, that probably has something to do with it, I would think.
Yeah.
So it's just also special.
Yeah, well, it's also interesting because it's just like, that's all like, yeah, that's the role, that's the character, and it's just like, but just hanging out in my living room, and it's just like, just trying to keep up with the human stuff, and I'm just like, it's amazing just how that isn't always in one's focus, but yet again, it's just like, it's what colors perception and the way that, one sees reality every day, and like, just even like having a good conversation with the neighbors, it's like, oh, the heart's connected. We're gonna ascend and expand because there's heart connection. It's not because all the information is going to be figured out and like people are going to get it. It's like, it's going to be like the vibration of something like, just so much more like loving and so much more like that family vibe. It's like 3 neighbors said hi to me this morning. I'm like, I'm so glad my neighbors like me because like I always wonder if like, I did something or like, And, like, it was just like, this feeling of, I don't, create this, and maybe I did in the past, but like what I really love to just do and acknowledge, is to not create this, oh, sheeple, oh, they're so asleep and this and that. And it's like, yeah, and they are, and there's moments, and I'm not saying anybody specific, but I just find that like it's just a beautiful thing to just connect on a heart level and just really feel like the energy is being raised. And it's not about like them saying, okay, I get it about the weather modification. It's more about I respect you as a being and you respect me. And like, wow, the energy is like just gotten really good.
Right. Well, I think the bottom line is, at a boxing gym where I trained, there was a sign that said, be nice to each other. And I really think that's what it boils down to be honest with you. It's just about coexisting. You don't have to agree with people. But the bottom line is, can't you just be civil? Is that hard? And I think a lot of people are so stressed out, and some are probably being influenced by something, that they don't have it within them. But yeah, I'm happy to hear your neighbors are cool. That helps.
Yeah, well, it's just, I know it's kind of weird. I'm not used to living in a neighborhood. I don't know what I'm used to, but the whole point is it's, as we kind of navigate these times, just those moments, I'm just like, they hit me a lot harder than just kind of like, oh yeah, it's the neighbor. It's like, it's really what I feel is going to lift us out of all this, because it is a frequency war. It's a war on consciousness. And so when we, naturally, raise our frequency by just those kind of like gestures or doing something for somebody who, needs help, it's like, and it makes us feel good. And it's like, I know I'm getting down to just the most simplistic, but during these times when like one is beating their head against the wall because people aren't taking seriously the things that they need to be really looking at, it's like, at least we have that. And then to me, it's like warming a muscle, and then, okay. And then, see if they can handle it. And if not, maybe wait till next week. And, it's like, right. I don't know.
I agree with you. Well, the bottom line is we're dealing with a world that's changed dramatically since my childhood. I'm sure yours. I mean, completely shifted. I mean, to a point where I don't even recognize this planet sometimes. I don't recognize the atmosphere or anything else. And, you can go on and on about how unhealthy everything is. We're literally being poisoned. There's no doubt about it. This is a slow kill. It's a slow death.
Absolutely.
So... when I look at it, and then to top it off, they have electromagnetic pulse weapons. I mean, when does it stop? And that's the problem. All the toys are out of control. These people have nobody's telling them to stand down. Instead it's being encouraged. So it's up to beings like us to at least stand up and be counted.
Yeah, and that's exactly, and I just feel like, the momentum's really building to take it to a whole other level. And there's solutions. I mean, people have been working real hard. It's like there's all sorts of, people that have created all sorts of tools and modalities that are going to assist, that are somewhat underground or unfunded and haven't been fully recognized or given the attention, that would make all the difference in the world. And maybe they've been given the some attention, and they're starting to be on the speaker circuit. But it's like, I mean, just as much as there's things that are trying to take us down, there's genius minds, and there's, spiritual hearts, and there's, there's enough to counteract. And this is the period. I mean, this is really the window period, because they're going to be clamping down pretty soon. And, we have to make sure that the people are educated enough to say, hey, I'm not voting for that. And if that person's behind it and we haven't been told it, and this is the next thing that they're going to do with a false maybe crash of the economy, everything is out on, social media now. The minute, there's a false flag, the people that are reporting on the falsity because they're experts in the particular field that's associated with whatever that attack is, is about as quick as one, it's as quick as I've ever seen.
Right.
9/11 took a while, but it's warmed up a major muscle, or warmed something up big that, the whole concept of false flags is not, things are sitting around and it's going to linger. And then maybe, 10 years down the road, it's like, can we look at that again? Wait a second. The buildings aren't supposed to do that. Or, if it's a school shooting or a bombing or the Paris thing, or I don't even watch the news. So, I just see, some of the headlines and I'm like, okay.
It's a circus. Right. I don't watch it either. It's just too much.
Yeah. But even reading articles is like, cable BS. But even just some things that I know are going to just crash my energy field. And it's just like, okay, I want to know what's going on. I want to be able to talk on the matter, but I'm certainly not going to open my field up to it if I know that my energy needs to be amping on what we need to manifest, because we're trying to draw in like what's going on in the multidimensionals. Right. And
yeah, they pull your intent in another direction. That's deliberate, by the way, of course. But the door swings both ways, with technology, as you were saying, and scientists who are developing an opposing, maybe a counter, let's put it that way. Usually they go underground or they become kind of hidden and cloaked because they don't want to be tracked anymore. And I know quite a few who are fed up. So, and they're working on alternatives. We don't have to be victims of a technology that's out of control. That's the bottom line. Or political, tyrants or anything else. We didn't sign up for that. And the planet didn't sign up for it, So I think it's time to change this in the illusion of time itself, right? Because we can manipulate timelines just as good, if not better, than they can.
Yeah.
So, and I think actually by putting the energy out there right now, we're creating so many ripples in the fabric of space beyond the illusion of time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, and it's just really powerful because, we're taking on all sorts of adventures. And as much as, the astral is not like, the clearest area when we sleep at night, it's just all sorts of different things going on there. But, we're going to, really get our spiritual abilities back, and like what's been dormant is going to get turned on again. And we're going to be able to just like make adjustments and, repair things and repair. It's just, there's just no way you can't, even if, there is sort of a phantom earth and things bifurcate. And I think a lot of us sort of expected it, there's also like the need to just find some kind of acceptance in the fact that this is a place that really tests souls. Is this what you want? And there's going to be certain people that are going to prove that, this isn't just like a test, this is like a full on, like, where how your children are being educated, what they're being exposed to. It's how they're treating your grandmother in the nursing home, and it's like, it covers all these generations. And there's some sort of insult or some sort of like, this isn't healthy. This isn't the way it should be. So we have choices right now to say, hey, it doesn't need to be like this. And the ones that don't do anything, I'm sorry. It's like, and like I said before, and it's not that I'm not, feeling compassionate, but it's like a lot of souls need to fall down and get back up again. And to me, like, humanity is a teenager now. And in past lives, we might have had to give our life forces, particularly the divine feminine or just feminine power in general, has probably given so much power and energy away. And I feel it. And some of it is.
And now look how it's being attacked again.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, time to bring it back. And now time to just kind of cut the cords. And now humanity, you're kind of like a teenager. Now you need to fall on your face and you need to make choices about where you're heading now. But you got what you needed. You got the nurturing you needed. During very, very dark times in history, there was enough of us that were holding the sacred flame and keeping it going, or we wouldn't be here right now. And we signed up for, some very difficult things to get over and overcome. But it's just, and my friend even said, I don't even want to quote, but it's like, you're doing it in order to like dismantle something or to help something. It's not like, oh, it's bad karma. Like, I hate it when people say, oh, it's just your karma. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine or whatever. And like, I'm not going to depends what day of the week and like what kind of mood but no, I'm just joking. But, and I think you can tell when a person means well,
right.
And it is karmic, of course, but it is based on agreements. But when it comes down to the feminine power coming back, it's not, put in the box of what New Agers think. It's not put in the box of like what, is just, based on the religious figures. It's just like, it's us being so full on ourselves, earth, air, fire, water, too, and all elements being completely embraced and completely like worked with no matter, what, because that's always going to create balance for just that being real, to happen. It's like, if I have to blow like fire and volcanic like spews, for, 3 weeks or so, so be it. Actually, it's going to like balance me to just be true to myself when that comes up, compared to bottling it up and actually having it turn into a symptom or a disease later on.
Right. You have to move the energy. Absolutely. Yeah. I have a heavy bag for that.
Yeah. It's like, and so I think, when it comes down to like how people can identify with, the goddess, or just the power of the feminine, or the divine masculine and sacred union, it's like, let's liberate ourselves even more so than maybe how some of these pictures are coming at us, and it's like, I don't know. I just love to just really nurture just the process of each individual. And it's like, okay, it's not, and I'm not going to go into all the philosophies. It's like, oh yeah, Laura's saying that again, and I heard her say that, but and if people want it to be outside of them, great. I'm not here to tell you like what you should or shouldn't do, but it's just so liberating right down to just know that you are just like we are divine, period. Like, and the more we allow ourselves to own this, all the stuff that doesn't need to be there is going to shake itself off a lot more so than trying so hard, and then the denial to all the things that are like hooking into us that create like a response of because there's comments, people are like, gosh, Laura, that's so aggressive, that's so not divine feminine. I'm like, whatever, like what. I didn't create this page to like, have funny. It be like a box or like, and I'm sure that anybody, you know what I mean? And it's just, I have to laugh because, I just want to make sure that people don't think that I'm that person, but I start to see that people are coming at it from the other angle of just, and I'm like, whoa. And I'll remind people, I'm not, and it's not like I'm here to be followed. It's just, I just hope, that I just, give people something to go on and just an encouragement, just want to encourage people.
Right. Well, I think it's good to be very honest energetically. That's the bottom line. A lot of people are the love and light all the time. And then when a crisis comes forward, they run and hide. I want people who are like, if I'm in a dark alley and I know I need backup, I want people who are not afraid. And that's the bottom line. So I think there has to be a balance without a doubt. You have to understand, I know you understand this, one has to understand and navigate in these dark tides. You have to learn how to ride the waves. You have to learn how to ride the technology. I've learned how to ride the technology. So the door swings both ways. If we've talked before, I can make their life miserable too. And I have enough information on these guys. I have enough information on the technology that makes them look very, very stupid right now. That's so, true.
So good.
I think it is. I just keep rolling, I just keep going. But I think it's very important that we stand up, as I said, and be counted. And I think it is about people being prepared. It's really too bad that the mass collective was not prepared for the bigger shift of what we call universal ascension, because it would have made this whole shift move a lot easier. We've had so many drama bubbles, so much crisis. We have government that will not let go because they don't want us having that independent design. So they're holding on tooth and nail, and they're using whatever means they can to keep us secured in a little box, and it's just not working.
It really isn't. It's not working at all. It's working on a lot of people, but when it comes down to some very, very, like big operations, and when it comes down to like, some really darn big agendas that utilize a lot of technology to like build and create, including off-planet entities that like work the Archonic, fences that are just, part of what the veil actually truly is, and that affects our DNA, where the same thing is happening, where, they're trying to shut down like things spiraling up. They want things to spiral down. They want our kundalini to spiral in a completely different direction. And just, like the anomaly stuff. Right. It's not for a second do I think that we don't have this. And I'm not attached enough to this reality that, if the Armageddon and apocalypse thing is like the biggest thing going to create fear, it's just like, well, get over it. Don't even have fear about it. Like, what is there to fear anyway? It's like, the attachment to the physical, the attachment to the material, the attachment to whatever, one can identify with, and the complete and total, refusal and resistance to the mysteries. And it's like, we're here to lift the veil between life and death. We're not here to just kind of like die and be wiped out. It's like, and even if we were, that might be like us moving on into like a higher earth energy or a completely different experience.
We just go into another dimension. Yeah, it's just a shift in consciousness.
Yeah, and Dr. Dream, when I first met him, he, one of his favorite quotes of mine, I can't believe I'm like quoting like what he sometimes brings up, but that you always wake up somewhere else. It's like, what is the real problem here anyway? It's like, the priority, or at least I think the focus should be, and I know I say it before, and maybe like right now I'm having a little moment of redundancy here and there with certain points.
You're
but
fine. You're great.
Yeah, it's and now I'm kind of like, it's because we're lifting the veil between life and death and this and that, and we're really recognizing ourselves as multidimensional beings. What is there to really fear except for being controlled? And when we put all our attention on that, instead of like all the different things that conjure up, fears about things that we shouldn't even have, period. Not to say that like we shouldn't be on the process in order to get things, healed, like, DNA damage, ancestral line damage, and, different things. But the things that we're taught to fear are actually nothing compared to the things that if we could just face head on, we would move mountains, because we're actually, I think that this is the greatest window right now. Like this year ahead, we have got to, just push it forward and get the numbers and I'm thinking, okay, petitions. And I'm like anything that reminds me of what's been done before. I'm like, well, of course, a petition would be a good thing anyway, because it's numbers and it's people. But, it's going to be a big time of strategizing. And the great thing too with the universe is even, one doesn't really have to rack one's brain, but when you at least identify an intention or something that needs to be done, it's amazing how the universe, picks up the rest of it, picks up the rest of the slack. It's like, thank you.
Yep,
thank you.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. Well, I think it's just like a little bit of a gravity well right now. That's what it feels like to me. It feels very magnetic, and it feels like it pulls a lot on the psyche insofar as what's going on in this timeline. And then I look, and I'm sure you can relate to this, but on a multiversal level, when we really start becoming one in an avatar design, then we obviously can navigate from space to space in the illusion of time and distance, which doesn't exist, by consciousness, which means we don't even need a spacecraft. We can set the intent for where we want to be in any universe, in any sector, and we will be there.
Oh,
and I'm sure you understand that, right?
Yeah, I just did a post about something like that not too long ago. I said, yeah. So keep going.
That's who we are, though. That's the funny thing is, it's like we have to remind ourselves of our celestial heritage, of our divinity, which has been censored. And, of course, they've tried to dumb everybody down and sleep everybody to a point where they're not understanding who they are. And all they have to do is look into the cellular design and notice it. But, I think that you were talking about the ancestors, and I really believe that releasing vows and contracts, because a lot of our ancestors did a good fight. They were pure-hearted beings, but the bottom line is they were being manipulated over the centuries. And, of course, I think, and I have this thing for releasing vows and contracts, and I really believe it works. And I'm sure you've probably done something similar for your ancestors, which actually liberates the lineage and the bloodline to a point where they can ascend on an energetic timeline. And I think that's very important.
And it's funny because it's I consider us the most advanced technology, and so anybody who's really awake to what you just said, who is born into any family line, that's a major gift for the ancestral line, because that particular soul came in and said, hey, I'm going to wander away from the tribe. I'm going to go maybe in some places that uncover maybe what some of the mysteries are. And I'm not necessarily talking about my bloodline. I'm like, oh God, where do we go with that one? Because there's just a lot in that administration because of the ET and also the war stuff. But I've studied it enough to be like, okay. But yeah, it's amazing because, ending contracts is huge. And the thing is, when you do end that contract, and whatever sort of patterning or whatever sort of thing that is kind of the theme that kind of created some sort of like backlog or some sort of stuckness, is immediately going to show, it's going to immediately reveal itself and say, okay, you're going to have to kind of just like knock this one out then. And then it's like, okay, it's identified and it's, watched and kept in check, and just simply paying attention to it. This is what I love about the I Ching, because it's the poetic DNA. It's like, here we have DNA and it's so scientific, and it's like, oh, okay, we're upgrading our DNA and this and that, and we are becoming, unbelievably advanced, and we are like, and I just love that you're saying all this about technology and just how our consciousness works. But it's great, how, just the I Ching, just to see that example of, that is the 64 and like the 12 and the 12, and everything that one gets is just so poetic, and you read it and you can actually upgrade your DNA, just kind of learning like what sort of patterning keeps showing up. And it's a tool that, it's not necessarily like that's what the person is using it for, but I know that on some level it has that sort of effect because it does have a lot to do with our DNA strands.
Right. And yeah. And do you actually, when you're doing healing, do you do healing sessions or readings? What are you doing right now?
I mean, I kind of go like, I've gone like in a lot of different directions just in the last, 20 years of just doing this sort of thing. Okay. I've been a tarot reader for like 20 years. I've done astrology. I probably not for as long, maybe like 10, 15, no, maybe even more. It's just like, it's just fun getting old because it's like, yeah, it's been 20 and I was like, God, that sounds like really like, I
know.
But as far as I went to a clairvoyant institute and I did clairvoyant readings there, and I didn't use any tools at all, and I got so used to it, and then I just decided to incorporate all of it because, you know, there is kind of like, I'm not going to assume that everything I see is like 100%, and so I like to have that backup, and I just kind of like the client, you know, kind of guide the reading, like, okay, do some astrology, and now do some clairvoyance, and it's like, but I'm very careful. I have like major ethics. There's, you know, some things I just feel maybe they shouldn't know, or like, and at the same time, it's like, it hasn't happened yet. So it's a probability, but if it gets empowered too much, it might get in the way. And I've seen what happens when somebody gives that kind of reading, and it's screwed with my life.
Oh,
and
gosh.
So I'm like,
heck yes.
So no, I'm like, I love the fact that I went through all that because it's actually made me a better reader. And the part of me that hadn't come to that conclusion, it's not that I was a victim, but I was like, you know, it's a very dangerous art, and like if you're not careful and if you don't have the ethics and you're not, you know, really honoring of that person's space, and you wait for permission to go in certain places, then, you know, because you know, and it's just, that's kind of how I built things. And anyway, and so yeah, I use a bunch of different tools, but I don't just do clairvoyance on its own.
Yeah, I was wondering because you strike me as someone who would do DNA activation or etheric light master surgery. That's why I was curious.
If I had more clients in person, I could see myself definitely going down that road.
I actually feel like, and I'm not predicting anything, but you have it. There's no doubt about it. You can do it. So something you might want to look at down the road.
Oh,
cool. I'm not putting anything out there for you. I'm not setting them, you know what I mean? But I know you have those gifts.
Please.
Laura, I know you have it.
Nice. Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're a star being, you know? I think that's why we get along. Oh, thank goodness. Someone I can relate to.
I know, seriously. I'm like, oh, this is so comfortable. Like,
oh, I'm telling you, and everybody. No, I don't have to go there right now, but it's really funny. We are very similar on many levels. It's kind of fun. So
it really is.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, did you ever go through any regression or hypnosis of any kind for maybe screen memories or past life?
Yes, I have done a little bit of hypnoregression. I would have liked to, you know, do more, which means, oh my gosh, I'm still alive. I can. There's, you know, there's certain things that I was looking for when I was in that particular, when I had signed up for that particular hypnoregression session. But I would like to just kind of go into territory that I'm not even sure kind of happened, that like I'm getting a sense like, hey, maybe it did. And like, let's, you know, set the record straight, which is, you know, something I've always wanted to do. And it's just, you know, it's crazy because there's just so much going on, and there's really, you know, I'd like to think, and I know I don't need excuses, or I'm like, you know, I'm like being, you know, why haven't you done this? But, you know, it's just something I want to do more. And it's like, how could that not have happened? So, but I was surprised with the things I found. And, because I went to the Clairvoyant Institute for 2 years and I got read all the time, you know, it's kind of like going to massage school and getting massages all the time. And it was kind of by accident. I even ended up there. It wasn't like I was looking for it and I signed up for it and I was like, I'm going to go to Clairvoyant Institute. I stumbled upon it and they're like, you know, they were just like, you know, you really need help. It's like, you have to ground out all this energy. And like, I could tell that I was doing this wormhole stuff and clearing inorganic entities from wormholes. And I'm like, nobody's ever like seen that or been able to pick up on that. So I'm like, okay, I'm signing up. Because I got a lot of readings, it ended up, you know, going into like a lot of past lives, and then it just really shook, you know, it just kind of like stirred a lot up. And and then, yeah, I did some appointments, but it was funny because some of the lifetimes I went back into, it was just like, you know, just focus on this symbol, or just focus on like this particular thing. It's like, you don't really need the story. And I'm like, I felt like that was my higher self or something else, you know, like in agreement to my higher self saying, you know what, it's like, it's not about retrieving the story as much as it's about really understanding like the blueprint and really the embodiment of, you know, what these energies represent and how to help turn that on for people. And that was, you know, in my early 20s that I was getting some of that stuff done.
Wow. What sun sign are you?
I'm a Libra.
You're a Libra. Okay, you're an air sign then. Okay, well, that would explain the energetic thing insofar as fast forward. You are very fast forward. I am too. And I'm wondering, you mentioned PTSD. Is that something you have suffered from in the past?
Oh my God. Did I say that this show?
Well, I thought I heard you say it at the beginning, no?
Oh, that's funny. Maybe I did. I mean, I say it a lot, and I'm like, you know, I don't own the label, like, in a way that, I mean, there's a lot to it. And I know that some people have it, and they have gone through things that I haven't gone through. And it's like, you know, so I'm like, I do know that I have trigger responses and things that throw me out of my body. And I go through, I mean, I've seen and witnessed things that are so freaking horrific that, you know, and you know what that does. And I'm always like healing. And my intuition says, you're healing PTSD. It's like, I've got GABA, I've got all these supplements next to me. And the reason I talk fast is like, you know, I'm healing something huge in my nervous system that has to do with PTSD. When I got a reading on it, somebody was like, you know, are you injured? Like, were you ever in a major?
I'm not laughing, Laura, but I can relate to you. I swear to God, it's really wild. Go ahead.
Oh, that is. So she's like, you know, have you ever been in, like, physically injured, like in a massive car accident or something that really just like put you up for a long time and it was really just like really difficult? And I'm like, no, like I've dislocated my knee and like, you know, can't really think of, you know, much else. Of course I would remember and know if like something like that happened. And she goes, well, what about emotional? I was like, yeah. And I'm like, all sorts of things. It's just like, well, should I start, you know, a list? And she's like, wow, you know, it was so bad that it actually shows up that, you know, that it's on a physical injury level, like it physically injured me.
Mm-hmm. Well, you have a quick mental body. There's no doubt about that. But that's also a sign of star beings, too. I mean, they have real quick neural activity. But I will say they're also beings like you are definitely targets for interface. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. And you know, and I just allow that to be a part of, you know, the experience. And like, if I can rise above it, I can help other people rise above it. And it's like, you know, it's just a part of, you know, the journey. It's like, you know, I want to be able to identify with these sort of things. I wouldn't say that you know, I'm like sitting there on a conscious level saying, yes, bring me more. I totally want to review the contracts and see like, okay, you know, what is going on with all that. But I do know that on some level, kind of going through it and nurturing the healing process, you know, has really helped me to understand the human condition on levels that I wouldn't have been able to. And so, you know, and just the emotional stuff, you know, I just feel like I think some of us who are sensitive enough are traumatized just waking up in this reality when you know that you're here. Mm-hmm. Like that right there was the beginning of, right. It's just intense. And so,
I agree.
And then there's just a need to just sort of be a part of Gaia's process. And for me, it was like releasing emotionally for like 20 years straight. And I know I bring it up a lot in interviews that like, I really was just like, you know, like, an endless supply of water, just water shooting out of my face. It didn't even matter if like, it was just like, just need to kind of like help, you know, release this. And it's actually what helped me, you know, come back into my body. It's like, you know, and we just, and I just know that just being very comfortable with the process of healing is going to do it that much quicker than sitting with, you know, a therapist or going on meds. And I'm not saying that that's not a good idea, because sometimes that can be a lifesaver if you need it just to kind of get you through a certain period. But yeah, I would say I definitely, that word always comes up that, you know, I definitely have PTSD, but, you know, I'm working with it all the time, and I know it's not to the level of some people, but yeah, I feel strong though. And
oh, you are. And another thing too.
No, I have really like days where I'm just like, whoa, like what is wrong with you?
No, well, you know, as we download higher light frequencies too, that's a fast spin, by the way. So when you start downloading these levels of different dimensional consciousness, whatever you want to call it, light packets, whatever, on Ascension, then you're dealing with a frequency that's very, very fast and quick too. So that has a lot to do with it, I'm sure. I think you're really running a lot of high vibratory rate energies, if you ask me. But I do suspect, because of your background with your heritage, that you probably were constantly remotely stalked, and you probably maybe knew it, maybe didn't, and that even energetically would impact you.
Oh yeah, and I did know it on a lot of levels. I always knew that like there's some sort of thing going on, and because I couldn't talk about it, or the ideas I was having and the downloads I was having, and this is what I'm here to do, sort of mission stuff, I was like, okay. And this is when I was, you know, moving into 13 years old, 14 years old, 15 years old. I'm like, I'm going to have to maybe even like started younger, because my mission was obvious to me, like even younger than that. But it was like, you have to live a double life. And it's like, okay. And I know I've said this in maybe even recent interviews, but you know, it's sometimes easier to just play the screwed up kid, you know, like everybody wants to just, it's too much for them. So it's just easy to be whatever role is more comfortable for them, until you can figure out a way to get them to just sit down for 5 minutes. And those moments were hard. You know, people were running the other way. They're like, I don't want to know what she has to say.
People live in fear. You know, I love that saying, the oceans have no walls.
Right.
You know, it just, to me, that means a lot, because it's really, I think it's about that. I think it's about navigating without restriction. And I think that's the bottom line, what we're trying to attempt. And we're actually not trying, but what we're trying, I don't want to say that we're trying. What we're literally doing here is awakening people to that fact that we shouldn't have limitation around us like that. And people don't need babysitters and this and that, obviously, when they're jumping from one level of consciousness to the next, hopefully. But yeah, it's a fascinating life you've had. Now, have you written any books on your biography?
I did write, I had written probably about 250 pages. I had about that much material. I had everything kind of ready to show to somebody, you know, chapter, like develop, you know, when it just doing summaries for each chapter, having an outline, having it all like really ready to go. really just kind of the skeleton of it, and that I could just keep adding to. And then, I'd gotten about 250 pages, and not to go into the story, but, it ended up just pretty much disappearing. So,
oh no, really?
Yeah, it's a kind of a sore spot.
Oh, that's a real drag, because I think you should do a big time biography.
Yeah, because there is, things that you just can't write again, because it was so much about the moment that you were in, and just kind of getting into just the energetic of the moment,
right.
And even the week, or that time period. And it's like, it's really hard to capture. It's like, it all kind of feels like a past life. It's like, bouncing back and coming back to life, and like actually being okay. It's like, I look back at all that, I'm just like, it's like a past life. It's like, but it's not so past life as in far removed and I don't remember it. I mean, it's just there was a real kind of death and need to just come back in order to get, to the next phase of the journey. And, but that particular one, there's no way to recall it, because you just having to kind of just be kind of reborn from it all, was enough. And then kind of looking back, it's like, I can barely I can remember it based on, the chronology, and I was here at the time when I was doing this, but the actual emotion and just the depth of that emotion and just the process, it was just like, whoa, that's gone. But I do have some quotes and some little segments that are still there, and I might put them on my website.
Oh yeah, I would, for sure. Well, it's like one can never recreate a painting, you know what I mean? There's always something different and changed in frequency. And I understand that concept of running energy for information. Yeah, it's never the same, usually twice, in my opinion. It's been my experience, even with writing books,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and I could have the perspective of, it's time to write it now, and it'll be better than maybe it was. And there's all sorts of ways to spin it and to kind of remotivate myself, but it's not quite there yet, and it's just more of a timing thing. But I'd really love, when it's just things are really falling into place and saying now's the time. Yeah, I would love to, get back with that, and really just. Even if it misses all the stuff that used to be there, definitely I would love to write a book.
Right. Well, it sounds like you're going full speed ahead this year, which I'm glad to hear. And I think it's well needed insofar as your light and the information you're sharing with everybody. It's incredible.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're always there with the torch, I love it.
And you too, and it's just
Yeah, it gets old. Like I said, I get tired, man. I'd love to take off my armor someday, come home and just throw the armor away, Just can't do it.
I know. And it's just like, just doing normal human things. It's like, okay, grocery store is like about all, there's certain things that it's just no choice because it's basic survival stuff. Mm-hmm. But like all the extra things, it's just like shopping at like Bed Bath & Beyond just to get something like extra cool. It's like for the kitchen, it's like, God, people do that. How do they do that? How do they create the space and time to be able to do that? And it's just like, in my 40s, with 16-year-old kids, and it's just like, I feel like I'm learning just kind of how to be a human. I don't want to be a program, a certain version of it, but I don't have any judgment of it if you're making your house nice or this and that. I mean, maybe I do have an issue with elitists, that are screwing over humanity. That's a whole other thing.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, I mean, there is no sort of normalcy, and I don't like to use that word, of course, but there isn't one on just a level of, really being able to just kind of kick back and like, and I can't say that I don't have my times of diffusing and just watching something. I watched the whole Locked Up Abroad. I was like, whoa, this show is intense, and it was amazing, and just but it was still kind of geared into like mission stuff and just justice and just like, and so yeah, I mean I do want to give myself more permission to relax and just do things like that, because I know it's grounding, and I certainly know it's not going to distract me away from anything. But I just look in awe of like. How, people, are functioning in that world. And it doesn't mean that I think that they don't have missions because that they have that kind of time. It's just, I just know people like us are here to just sort of like, give it a little bit of attention so that that person can say, oh my God, that's a whole nother dimension of me that I get to explore. And then when they get to explore it, maybe that's when we can just kind of kick back a little bit and do kind of like a little bit of, things that are just kind of more,
Right. I remember when I had a life. Yeah, I remember before I was inducted. I had a nice life.
Right.
And that went to black. I mean, it just completely faded away, unfortunately. But, I had downtime, and, I watched sci-fi shows once in a while. I don't watch any television anymore. I mean, but that was a lot to do with my handler and the programming they subjected me to, because they would overlay and basically talk to me real time. Everything I would watch, they would label for me. So it got to the point where I couldn't watch anything visual because they were constantly rewriting it. And so it was really driving. I mean, that's enough to drive anybody insane right there. And that was all done real time, by the way. So I stopped watching a lot of things, and I just got into a different scene. But
right. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so intense.
It's a past life. I'm telling you, Laura. It's weird. It's like I've lived and died several times over here on this timeline as well.
Oh yeah, totally. It's just like, oh my gosh, like so many times. I'm like, I'm really good at this whole death rebirth thing. I want to get even. It's just.
Yep.
I mean, and it's amazing because, it's an initiation too. And when it's time for people to go through their dark night of the soul or go through an initiation, it's like, I'm that much more equipped to really be able to help, because it's like, you start to get, good at stuff. It's just like, I'm kind of like a professional death rebirth alchemy. You like kind of, it's just like at this point, the bouncing back and, like being almost like completely gone and almost all of your energy completely like, and then it's just grabbing it at the last minute and say, I'm not done yet, and I'm still here, and I'm just going to still do it. And like, yes, I could leave here. But some of that targeting, also, particularly with yours, it's like, no, it's like, trying to ensnarl you, but at the same time, because you give it like a blast of something that maybe they didn't expect, it's like you're creating a major glitch in the matrix that's just going to ripple out. And I'm just seeing that, like, what the kind of work you're doing is just, it's going to take down, like, the whole thing. And, obviously, like, I'm right there with you, sharing what I can about, my experiences in certain technologies. But that's really the most important thing, because people have to not be so intimidated by them. They have to know that it's based on siphoning energy. It's based on, it's a vampiric, archonic, dark technologies that, are waiting for the Kundalini to be like, opening up negative portals, because, there's kind of like a programming that is getting in the way of the masculine and feminine relating on a level that actually does the opposite, which is create an alchemical output, which can change, the energies and the vibrations around, their field, maybe for miles and miles and miles, or like covering the whole like planet and like encompassing the whole of Earth,
Right. Exactly. You're spot on. Well, it's interesting. My motto is no free shots. In other words, if somebody takes a shot at me, well, they better expect a duck. I mean, that's my...
Oh, yeah.
And
nice.
I mean, even if it's a technological thing, but what I learned to do when I was inducted was override the program, and I would rewrite as a meta programmer, I guess you could call it. I literally overrode my handler and started pushing back very, very hard. So I hope I did put a glitch in their matrix. I really do. And like I said, I do love technology. I'm a real technological, geek in a weird way. I do like technology, but I don't think it should be misused, and I don't think it should be hurting people. And so I had to stand up,
Oh, it's just amazing.
Can you imagine children getting tagged with that program and then losing it and then saying, oh, look, the kid's schizophrenic, and he goes to a shrink, he gets on drugs, and then he has a breakdown, and the whole time it's a handler, live feed, real time. I mean, this is what we're dealing with here, Laura. So, I mean, parents should be aware of this stuff. There's a real nasty beast out there that needs to be identified, and I've identified it.
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh. I mean, I'm just so like, anything that I can do to just pass on anything that, you're doing. I'm just, I mean, I know it's weird to say on the air, but, message me, send it to me, Skype
I will.
it to me.
Likewise, we're a team.
Yes.
In a different, I swear we're just kind of star people, whatever. I don't know where we come from. We're definitely not from here. Sometimes I wonder why I'm here. You know what's interesting? I was thinking about when beings break orbit with the Earth, say an astronaut or anybody, I suspect that they completely lose resonance and memory of Earth and their life experience. And by the time they reach another planet, they probably would not remember being an earthbound being. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean that makes sense, because and I mean, it's your environment, it's the cells of the planet. I mean, it's like and then all of a sudden you're removed from it. It's like,
right. It's the collective. They break orbit with the collective. Therefore, they would become different in frequency with whatever environment if it's Mars, it's Mars. And then I'm wondering, when they come back, they would appear as extraterrestrials to the regular masses. They'd be modified.
Yeah. I mean, that's just also wild to
it is. I keep thinking about things like that, because I know we have soul extensions, and I know we're multidimensional, and with that comes, a modulation of different frequencies and things like that. So it's very, very interesting for sure. So what's down the road for you this year? What are you going to work on, since we're getting ready to wrap this up in about 10 minutes?
Well, there's I'm going to be speaking at Conscious Life Expo, I think it's New Living Expo, Contact in the Desert, Free Your Mind Conference, and it's like, okay, there's a lot of events happening. I didn't name them all, but you can check it on my website, cosmicgaia-sophia.com. So I'll be doing that. I feel like, there's just a lot, of changes in my personal life. So I think, just kind of seeing where everything lands and, just really just kind of seeing, okay, well, what's the process I'm in currently, and just really listening to Gaia and listening to Spirit, and like, okay, what is needed from me, and just upgrading all my presentations. And but then, I mean, I've got like serious missions being planned when it comes to like, why in the F is somebody like Hillary Clinton running for president?
Should we run? Laura, why don't you run? I'll be your VP.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, like, I mean, just even being anywhere around like any of those people. But I'm sure that we have more to discuss about, some great strategies and ideas, for what's ahead. And that's like an idea that like excites me. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, because, some of these things have come across, I guess you could say, the radar, if that's the way to put it, about, me possibly being a vice president or something like that. And, so I have had time to think about it. I just don't know. But like you saying it, it's just like,
well, you're wired for it without a doubt. And I would actually think, I think we need someone like you, quite honestly. We need star people here. We need somebody to move it all around and shift this whole dynamic. People can catch up. They can catch up. They just need to be awakened.
Yeah, and if it's not running for president, I'm going to get so loud, and it's going to get so, yeah, I mean, White House, you better watch out.
Well, I think they're all kind of like, they're burning their bridges, so they better be careful, I would suspect.
Yeah, well, we can just kind of like, get the dump truck thing and just kind of like throw them into it and say, okay, we'll carry you off. It's time to just kind of like, reset the foundation, or not necessarily reset the foundation, but bring meaning into a foundation that may have been set, and then making a much more brilliant design that's much more in harmony with nature and really how it's meant to be. And we're going to like get these technologies disclosed, and like, I mean, I just can't, I'm just in awe of you. So,
well, likewise, I just think the transhumanism thing needs to be monitored. That's all. And people are getting pulled into things that they shouldn't be pulled into. And there's a lot of abuse going on with it. And, these guys want to immortalize themselves in a machine, and this machine has no soul. It's bottom line. It can't compete with universal consciousness. It doesn't have consciousness. They can create conscious thought, but they can't create the consciousness that the beautiful cosmic universe and the great cosmic mind have,
Right.
I mean, it's just, I know you speak my language. So, and once again, I have to thank you so much for being with us tonight. It's been such an honor to have you.
Oh my
I know
God.
your great-grandfather, is that how it would be very, very proud of you.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And it's such a great honor to be here. And I'm just going to be like basking in this and thinking about everything we shared. And I get to listen to it again. And thank you everybody for listening. And it's been awesome.
We have a few minutes. I think we have maybe 4 minutes or less. I mean, 3 minutes we have. So we can chat a little bit here. So what's going on with your teenagers? Are they up to speed about everything?
They're pretty much up to speed. I mean, the thing is, there's certain things where they say, I have an open mind to it, but, still need a little bit more, to just to kind of wrap their head around to just help them to get to the next level with it. But when it comes to like weather modification, chemtrails, when it comes to GMOs, when it comes to, being open to just, ETs, us being a multidimensional, it's just like, yeah. And they were very obvious, likely. They're saying a lot of very interesting things when they were really small. And like now, as teenagers, it's like they're sort of catching up with, their little kind of star self, and really, educating their friends and really just kind of inspire. Yeah. And bringing like flyers into school, and like, having people see like, wow, okay, there is spraying going on. And like, if you really look, it doesn't really make sense because there are grids and patternings. And so, yeah, I mean, they're really taking a stand and a leadership role in their generation. So I'm like thrilled about that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. And, coming up in their generation, I mean, my goodness, with all the technology they're exposed to. So I think that, creating a balance for them is awesome. They definitely need that. Definitely.
And I'm just doing my best to just guide them, and just, I mean, I'm just, it's amazing, parenting and we've just been through some interesting things lately, and I just know they're going to be a big part of what I do in the future, and I think we're just going to really kind of team up and cover as many generations as possible.
Mm-hmm. Well, you certainly are. You're covering a lot of ground, energetically speaking, by the way, because people will get it through osmosis, as I've said this many times before. With a high vibrational being like yourself who has a lot to offer, you're automatically triggering on a positive scale, activating people on a cellular level of higher consciousness, which is really nice. And I really want to thank you once again for everything you've done here on this world. And like I said, you're one of my spiritual sisters. I just adore you. So.
Oh, absolutely. You're one of mine, and I just love you. And thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure, always. And come back, would you please? And
Absolutely.
everybody, please, I hope you appreciated the show tonight. I know y'all did. Stay tuned for Researcher on a Mission with Dr. J here on Dark Matter Radio Network, of course. And where are we with the time? We've got 1 minute. I'm always fast, I swear. So anyways, do you have a minute's worth? Oops, she dropped. All right, so we're out of here almost in about 60 seconds. I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. I hope you appreciated that. I don't know if she dropped or hung up, but in any case, thanks for everybody for tuning in. And Keith, you want me to hang out here for a second, or should we just kind of call it a show? Thank you, everybody.